All right, hell yeah. So we have a top 10 list, and we're going to do an honorable mention first. And that honorable mention is paddle on your offside, especially if you're at a wave or just even R1ing in general, any stretches of river, because it's humbling. Because if you switch to your offside and you're not able to do the same things, then those are skills that you can just instantly improve. There's no reason you can't do the same exact things bracing. All right, so hell yeah. So this top 10 list is going to be kind of the things for this month. One is that Warner Bandit, this curve shape works really good. This is a 60-inch paddle. I've been working with shorter paddles, but hell yeah, I can get the most performance. This is my highest performance blade. The Bandito is a little bit narrower blade. That could be good. And obviously the carbon. All right, so for the top 10, number 2 is when taking strokes, choke up all the way and just pull the stroke like this. Because I have found that if you're in kind of concrete-ish water where you're not able to do this full stroke, or it's really taxing on this upper arm, it's super simple just to reach out and then pull. And so you're still kind of balancing over here, but you're just really pulling with this paddle. Okay, so number 3 is if it is like concrete, where you're just like, doing this is not going to be the most efficient. And so what I have found that's the most efficient is take a kind of a scooping stroke. Just move water in a very short distance. Just do a 1-2 and then man up and pull all the way through and make sure you got your pry. And so, but that's when it's in concrete where you're just like, hell no. Do 1-2 and then pull to that pry. And that's kind of a 2-for-1 because that man up and take your pry is like, yeah, you should be nailing your pry every time, but then that talks about how it is like concrete, where I can't even get to my pry, so do those 2 quick strokes, then man up and go for your pry. Number 4 is that when you're paddling and you're on the low side and you feel like you can't move anywhere, it's beneficial just to jump to the other side of the boat. Now you might be on a higher, bubblier surface, and now you can do strokes that are kind of downhill paddling. Even if you're taking the boat and rotating it downhill, you can use that momentum to get where you want. And so that just shows that one side might be locked in, and hell yeah. So there you go. There's going to be a good place to work on your offside. All right, top 10, number 5. I have found that strapping thwarts across the boat really help push down on the floor. Hell yeah. I've already got things underneath my thwarts to help push down on the floor, but then when I strap from D-ring to D-ring that go over the thwarts, that really helps push down on the thwarts, but it also, you know what I mean, it pushes down on the floor. It pulls the perimeter tubes up, and the perimeter tubes are going like this, and the rigid floor is staying in place. So hell yeah. So that really is effective when edging. I find that it's most effective in a side surf. Anytime that you're sideways in small features, your boat's not going to hit flat. And so an edgeable R1 is super important, because when you are in a side surf or edging, if that other tube lays flat and then catches something you don't want it to catch, then a more edgeable boat is the way to go. Okay, this might be the most controversial one, so we'll just do it fast. Number 6 is 303 the bottom of your boat. You know what I mean? You do you, but if you've never done it once, do it once, and you can see the instant improvement, especially if you are kind of working on more dynamic, you know, if you're just going down the river and don't really care, you know what I mean? But if you're trying to eke out that performance and contributing to this, you know, dynamic R1, you know what I mean? Hell yeah, that's a secret sauce right there. 7 is lurching. And there's 2 ways to lurch. Let's say you're entering a wave and you got to break an eddy wall, or just typically if you're entering a surf wave from the eddy, you kind of might have to go up and over like a first blocking wave. And so to drive momentum, it's best to lean back, and then that cantilevers your boat up over that feature, and then you can shift forward. Now, anytime you shift from like back to forward or side to side, it's kind of like the running in the canoe analogy. Sometimes the center of mass stays the same, And when you jump forward, the boat actually skips out behind you. But still, you can leverage that boat over and then grab a paddle stroke and then jump. And then that can lock that boat into place and get you up onto that planing surface. So that's where you lurch. You're way back here, and then you're able to jump forward. Hell yeah. And so, and then the opposite. Let's say you're in a surf wave and you're paddling up near the bow and you want to shoot the boat forward into the wave, then all you got to do is jump back. And if you paddle and jump back, if you kind of hold your paddle into the water, but literally, you know what I mean, you're taking a stroke, jumping back is that whole running in the canoe momentum analogy where the boat will shoot forward. And now you shot the long R1 boat into more favorable tacky current, and that'll help you stick. So hell yeah. So that kind of fully explains that. Number 7, there is like a, if you are in a wave train and going to the eddy, really jumping for the bow and plowing that bow, that's kind of on that same spectrum. Kind of just want to get this done, but hell yeah. So those are the, I would call all of those maybe lurch. Number 8. So these are just things that I've had success with. I just did this yesterday. Strapped the bow and stern with an NRS 1.5 inch strap. And so it took the boat and did this to it. And I had a strap going right down the middle. Like obviously it's not ideal. I was only able to stay on one side. But that gave me higher bow and stern rocker. And it effectively shortened up the boat. And it was win-win. You know what I mean? Our R1 boats are too long anyway, and so just on a small feature, I was able to really unlock a lot more for that. So just from an experimentation perspective, is like, hell yeah, that was a good one. You're at a low water wave, you know what I mean? And you don't mind just being into one position anyway, hell yeah. All right, number 9 is I have a foam beam underneath my thwarts. It goes lengthwise, and it pushes out the floor. So I have found, so this one's about having a center pedestal. I have found that in R1, especially when surfing, you want to get to the center. But if the only center position is way back into the seat, it's really hard to weight the bow. And so I do want the pockets, you know, just like normal. But if I'm centered in the boat, it would be nice to have a pedestal that was just a little bit forward. So currently what I have is a pedestal, a foam runner that goes from thwart to thwart lengthwise. And it doesn't get in the way of like my feet getting over. That's for number 9. But hell yeah, I can build that up right in the middle. So then if I'm in the middle of the boat, I can, you know, get more forward. I'm looking forward to that. So number 10 is, hell yeah. So now we're done with the top 10. And in no particular order, I just wanted to do 10 things. Is that this center runner that helps push out the floor, goes underneath the thwarts, is kind of now 2 compartments for your feet, one on the right, one on the left. And I have found that it doesn't get in the way. You know, I can even drop a knee. You can even drop a knee onto it, which is useful. And so right now I'm in the process of like softening that up. It's got to be a rigid structure because it's got to hold that rockered shape. But what happens is now that you have smaller compartments on either side and you can turn your feet this way and kind of lock in heels. There's just a lot more ways you can lock in your feet when you turn your feet like this with that center runner. And so now what I'm working on is I definitely want an overlap. So like the runner is about 6 inches. I want it to come up and overlap a little bit and then be soft. You know what I mean? So if I get my feet underneath there, it's kind of soft where it will release, but definitely soft and grippy. All right, so hell yeah. So for this month and kind of going into the summer, that was kind of like the top 10 that was just on my mind. And mainly just kind of after this last little low water session. So hell yeah. So hopefully you appreciated some of these top 10s when it comes to R1ing and maybe gives you some ideas. So hell yeah, booyah.